The text wasn't meant for me. I was lying under my battered Ford pickup at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, wrestling with a busted transmission line, when my phone buzzed against the concrete floor of my garage. The message lit up the screen. "Meet you at the lake house tomorrow. Bring the red heels. Can't wait to see you out of that boring marriage." The sender? Someone named R in my wife's contacts. I slid out from under the truck, wiping grease off my hands with an old rag. Zara's phone sat on my workbench where she'd left it, still glowing. She was upstairs, probably doing her nightly skincare routine that took longer than rebuilding an engine. 22 years of marriage, and I'm finding out about lake houses and red heels through a misdirected text. My name is Orion Vanton, and I fix cars for a living. Not glamorous, but honest work. My wife Zara runs some fancy advertising agency downtown, the kind of place where people wear suits that cost more than my monthly rent and talk about synergy like it's a real thing. We used to joke about our different worlds, her glass towers and my grease-stained coveralls. Lately, the jokes stopped being funny. I stared at that text for a long time, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Not surprise, exactly. More like confirmation of something I'd been trying not to see. The late nights at the office, the new clothes, the way she'd started looking at me like I was furniture that didn't quite match the decor anymore. "Orion?" Zara's voice drifted down from upstairs. "Did you see my phone?" "Yeah," I called back, slipping the device into my pocket. "I'll bring it up. But first, I had some reading to do." I scrolled through her messages, my heart hammering against my ribs. Months of conversations with R, whose contact info revealed him to be Rhett Vossin, owner of Vossin luxury cars across town. The kind of guy who sold overpriced vehicles to people desperate to look successful. The messages painted a picture I didn't want to see but couldn't look away from. Dinner dates, hotel reservations, plans to handle the Orion situation once they figured out how to maximize the financial outcome. They weren't just having an affair, they were planning to take me for everything I had. I found myself laughing, a sound with no humor in it. Here I was, worried about transmission fluid, while my wife was planning to drain my bank account with her boyfriend. "Orion?" Zara appeared at the top of the stairs, wrapped in her silk robe. Even angry and betrayed, I had to admit she was still beautiful. 42 years old, and she could turn heads like a woman half her age. "What's taking so long?" "Just checking something," I said, climbing the stairs with her phone. "You got a text from work." She took the device without looking at me, already reading. I watched her face change as she realized what had happened, the slight widening of her eyes, the way her lips pressed together. "It's nothing important," she said too quickly. "Just a client being dramatic." "Must be some client," I said, "asking you to bring red heels to a lake house." The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. "Orion, how long?" I asked. She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Not guilt or shame, calculation. She was trying to figure out how much I knew and what it would cost her. "I don't know what you think you saw. I saw enough." I sat down on our bed, suddenly exhausted. "Rhett Vossin, the car dealer. Really, Zara? You couldn't find someone who wasn't a walking cliché?" Her chin came up, defiant. "You don't understand the pressures I'm under, the expectations. You come home covered in grease and think a beer and the game is enough. When was the last time you took me somewhere nice? When was the last time you made me feel like a woman instead of a roommate? So this is my fault? This is nobody's fault. It just happened." I almost laughed again. Planning to clean out our bank accounts just happened? That got her attention. Real fear flickered across her face. "I saw the messages, Zara. All of them. The hotels, the restaurants, the conversations about how to handle me. Did you really think I was too stupid to figure it out?" She sat down across from me, and for a moment I thought she might try to explain, to apologize, to give me something to work with. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and looked me in the eye. "What do you want, Orion?" Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? A year ago, I would have said I wanted my wife back. I wanted our marriage to mean something again. I wanted to feel like the man she married instead of an obstacle to her happiness. Now, looking at her sitting there in her expensive robe, calculating the cost of her betrayal, I realized I wanted something else entirely. I wanted her to pay. "I want you to be very, very careful," I said finally, "because I'm not the same man I was an hour ago." She studied my face, looking for weakness, for the old Orion who would have rolled over and accepted whatever scraps she threw him. She didn't find him. "I'm going to stay at Jovie's tonight," she said, standing. "We can talk about this when we've both had time to think." Jovie Caldren, Zara's best friend since college, the kind of woman who collected other people's secrets like souvenirs, beautiful, single, and always ready with advice about how Zara deserved better than her blue-collar husband. "You do that," I said. "Give Jovie my regards." After she left, I sat in my empty house and made a list. Not on paper, I'm not stupid enough to leave evidence lying around. But in my head, I cataloged everything I knew, everyone involved, every weakness I could exploit. Zara thought she was dealing with the same old Orion, the one who fixed her car and paid the bills and never asked too many questions. She had no idea what she'd just unleashed. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 15 years. "Colby Varon Investigations." "Colby, it's Orion Vanton. I need your help." A pause. "Orion? Christ, it's been forever. What kind of help?" "The kind you're good at. I need to know everything about my wife's boyfriend, and I need to know it fast." "Cheating wife, huh? I'm sorry, man, that's rough." "Don't be sorry," I said. "Be thorough." After I hung up, I walked back out to my garage and looked at my reflection in the chrome bumper of a customer's car. The man staring back had grease under his fingernails and crow's feet around his eyes. He looked tired, ordinary, forgettable. That was about to change. I had work to do. Colby Varon looked exactly like what he was, an ex-cop turned private investigator who'd seen too much and trusted too little. We met at Mel's Diner on Thursday morning, the kind of place where the coffee was strong and the waitresses called you Hon, whether you liked it or not. "Your wife's got expensive taste," he said, sliding a manila folder across the table. "Rhett Vossin owns 3 car lots, a boat, and a house on Lake Morrison that's worth more than most people make in a decade." I flipped through the photos and documents. Rhett looked exactly like I'd expected. Too much cologne, 2 white teeth, and the kind of tan that came from a salon. The kind of man who thought money could buy him anything he wanted, including my wife. "Here's the interesting part," Colby continued. "His business isn't as solid as it looks. He's been moving money around, hiding assets, probably dodging taxes, and he's got a reputation for going after married women." "How many?" "At least 3 that I could confirm. Always the same pattern: wine and dine them, convince them their husbands don't appreciate them, then help them restructure their finances during the divorce." I stared at a photo of Rhett and Zara leaving the Marriott downtown. She was laughing at something he'd said, her hand on his arm. She looked happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. "There's more," Colby said. "Your wife's friend, Jovie Caldren? She's been helping them plan this whole thing. I've got her on camera meeting with Rhett twice in the last month." That surprised me. I'd always thought Jovie disliked Zara's affair, that she was just being a supportive friend. Finding out she was actively helping orchestrate my destruction added a new layer to my anger. "What do you want to do with this information?" Colby asked. "I want to make them regret they ever heard my name." He studied me over his coffee cup. "Be careful, Orion. Revenge has a way of eating people alive. I'm not looking for revenge, I said. I'm looking for justice. That afternoon, I drove to Vossin luxury cars. The lot was full of shiny vehicles that cost more than most people's houses, and Rhett himself was standing near the showroom, talking to a young couple who looked like they were in over their heads. I parked across the street and watched him work. He had that salesman's gift for making people feel special, important, like they deserved whatever dream he was selling. The same skills he'd probably used on my wife. When the couple left, without buying anything judging by their expressions, I walked onto the lot. "Can I help you?" Rhett asked, his smile automatic and empty. "Maybe," I said. "I'm looking for something reliable, something that won't let me down when I need it most." "You've come to the right place. What's your price range?" I pretended to consider a red sports car near the front of the lot. "Nice car. Is this the kind of thing you take to lake houses?" His smile flickered. Just for a second, but I caught it. "I'm sorry?" "Oh, nothing. Just wondering about the practicality. You know how it is. Some cars are just for show, and some are built to last." I ran my hand along the car's hood, then deliberately stumbled, catching myself against the side with my keys in my hand. The metal scraped against the paint with a sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. "Oops," I said. "Sorry about that. These old hands aren't as steady as they used to be." Rhett's face went white as he looked at the long scratch I'd left in his pristine paint job. That's gonna cost—" "Send me the bill," I said, pulling out my wallet and dropping a business card on the ground. "Orion Vanton, Vanton Auto Repair. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other." I walked away, leaving him standing there with his mouth open and his perfect car ruined. It was a small thing, petty even, but it felt like the first real breath I'd taken in months. That evening, Zara came home. She'd been staying at Jovie's for 2 days, probably hoping I'd had time to cool off and accept whatever arrangement they'd worked out for my future. She found me in the kitchen, making dinner like nothing had changed. "We need to talk," she said. "Sure. How's Jovie?" "She's fine. Orion about the other night." "You mean when I found out you were planning to rob me blind with your boyfriend?" She flinched. "It's not like that." "Then what's it like?" She sat down at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, where we'd planned our future and shared our dreams back when we still had them. "I'm not happy," she said. "I haven't been happy for a long time." "So, you decided to steal from me?" "I decided to protect myself." "Do you know what a divorce would look like? You'd get half of everything I've built, everything I've worked for. Why should you benefit from my success when you've never supported my career?" I set down my spatula and looked at her. Really looked at her. When had she become this person? When had the woman I married turned into someone who could sit at our table and justify betraying me? "I worked 2 jobs so you could go back to school," I said quietly. "I took out loans so you could start your business. I've been supporting your career for 20 years. That was different. That was when we were a team. And now?" She met my eyes, and I saw something cold and final in her expression. "Now we're not." The honesty was almost refreshing. No more pretending, no more lies. Just the truth, ugly as it was. "Okay," I said. "Then let's not be." She looked surprised. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done pretending this marriage means something to you. You want out? Fine. But you're not taking me for a ride on your way to the door." "Orion." "I froze our joint accounts this morning," I said, "and I've got copies of all your messages with Rhett. Every hotel receipt, every plan you made to screw me over. You want a divorce? We'll have a divorce, but it's going to be on my terms, not yours." For the first time since this whole mess started, Zara looked genuinely scared. "You can't do that. That money, some of it's mine." "And some of it's mine. We'll let the lawyers figure out which is which." She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. You're making a mistake, Orion. I'm trying to be reasonable here. Reasonable? I laughed, and this time there was real humor in it. You call planning to clean out our accounts with your boyfriend reasonable? I call it protecting my interests. Well, now I'm protecting mine. She left again that night, and I didn't try to stop her. I had other things to focus on. I spent the evening going through our financial records, documenting every expense, every suspicious charge, every dollar that had gone to fund her affair, the hotels, the restaurants, the gifts she'd bought for Rhett with our money. Then I made some calls. The first was to Zara's boss, a man named Peterson, who ran the advertising agency where she worked. I'd met him at company parties over the years, a straight-laced guy who took the firm's reputation seriously. Mr. Peterson, this is Orion Vanton, Zara's husband. I'm sorry to bother you, but I thought you should know that Zara's been using company resources for personal business. I've got documentation if you're interested. The second call was to the Better Business Bureau. Rhett's financial irregularities, the ones Colby had uncovered, made for interesting reading when presented in the right light. The third call was to my old boxing coach, Mickey Torino. I hadn't stepped in a ring in 15 years, but some skills you never lose. Mickey, it's Orion Vanton. I need to get back in shape fast, and I need to remember how to hit things without breaking my hand. What kind of trouble you in, kid? The kind where being able to handle myself might come in handy. Come by tomorrow. We'll see what you remember. I hung up and looked around my empty house. For the first time in days, I felt like myself again. Not the defeated husband, not the victim of someone else's schemes. Just Orion Vanton, a man who'd been pushed too far and was finally ready to push back. Zara thought she knew me. Rhett thought I was just another mark, another obstacle to remove. Jovie thought I was too stupid to see what was happening right in front of me. They were all about to learn how wrong they were. Mickey's gym smelled like sweat, leather, and broken dreams. Nothing had changed in the 15 years since I'd last walked through those doors. The same cracked mirrors, the same speed bags hanging from chains that had seen better decades, the same old men sitting in folding chairs and arguing about fights from before I was born. Look what the cat dragged in, Mickey said when he saw me. He was 73 years old and built like a fire hydrant, with hands that could crack walnuts and a heart bigger than his vocabulary. Orion Vanton, I thought you were too fancy for us working stiffs now. Never too fancy for you, Mickey. He looked me up and down, taking in the soft edges that 20 years of married life had added to my frame. What's got you wanting to hit things again? My wife's boyfriend. Mickey nodded like this explained everything. Well, let's see if you remember how to throw a punch without falling over. The first session nearly ended me. My hands remembered the rhythm, but my body had forgotten the price. By the time I dragged myself home, every muscle I owned was filing a formal complaint. But it felt good, better than good. For the first time in months, I felt like I was doing something instead of just letting things happen to me. That's when Jovie called. Orion? It's Jovie. Can we talk? I almost hung up. Jovie Caldren was beautiful in the way that made men stupid and women jealous. She'd been Zara's friend since college, and in all the years I'd known her, she'd never called me directly. What about? About Zara. About what's happening. I think we should meet. Why would we do that? Because I know things you don't know, and because I think you deserve better than what she's doing to you. I agreed to meet her at Rossetti's, an Italian place downtown that was dark enough for private conversations and loud enough that nobody would overhear them. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth and nursing a glass of wine. She'd dressed down for the occasion, jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer everything, but she still looked like she belonged in a magazine. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down. Talk. She smiled at my directness. I always liked that about you, Orion. You don't waste words. I don't waste time either. What do you want? I want to help you. Help me what? Destroy them. I studied her face, looking for the angle. With Jovie, there was always an angle. Why would you want to do that? Zara's your best friend. Zara was my best friend, past tense. She took a sip of wine, and I saw something hard in her eyes. Do you want to know what she said about you last week? I didn't, but I needed to. She said you were pathetic, that you were holding her back from the life she deserved, that getting rid of you was like finally taking out the trash. The words hit harder than any punch I'd ever taken in Mickey's gym. She said that? She said a lot of things. About how easy it was going to be to take your money, how stupid you were for not seeing what was right in front of you. She laughed about it, Orion. She actually laughed. I felt something cold and sharp settle in my chest. Not hurt. I was past hurt. This was something else. Something harder. What do you want from me? I asked. I want us to work together. You want to make them pay? So do I. Why? She hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. Because Rhett and I have history. He made me promises once, then threw me away when something better came along. Now he's doing the same thing to your wife, and she's too blind to see it. So, this is about revenge? This is about justice. They deserve each other, and they deserve what's coming to them. She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. Rhett's planning to leave town after he's finished with Zara. He's got a buyer lined up for his business, and he's already transferred most of his assets offshore. Once the divorce is final and he's got his hands on your money, he's gone. I opened the envelope. Bank statements, property records, email printouts. Enough evidence to bury Rhett Vossin and everyone connected to him. How did you get this? I have my ways. The question is, what are you going to do with it? I looked at the papers, then at Jovie. She was offering me everything I needed to win, but I'd learned not to trust gifts that came without a price. What's your angle, Jovie? My angle is watching them both get what they deserve, Rhett for using me and Zara for helping him do it. And what do I get out of this partnership? You get your life back, and they get to learn what happens when they underestimate Orion Vanton. I thought about it. I thought about Zara laughing about taking out the trash. I thought about Rhett's smug smile when he'd seen the scratch on his car. I thought about all the nights I'd lain awake wondering what I'd done wrong, when the real problem was that I'd done everything right for people who didn't deserve it. Okay, I said, let's do this. Jovie smiled, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt like I had an ally. I was wrong about that, but I wouldn't find out how wrong until it was almost too late. The next morning, I put the first part of our plan into action. I called Peterson, Zara's boss, and arranged to meet him for lunch. I appreciate you taking the time, I said, as we sat down at a restaurant near his office. I know this is awkward. It's fine, Orion. I've always respected you, and I'm sorry about what you're going through. I pulled out a folder of documents, some from Colby's investigation, some from Jovie's envelope. I thought you should know that Zara's been using company time and resources for personal business. She's been meeting with clients during her affair, using the company credit card for hotel rooms, and I have reason to believe she's been sharing confidential information with her boyfriend. Peterson's face went pale as he looked through the evidence. This is very serious. I know. I'm not trying to hurt her career, but I thought you deserved to know what was happening. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll need to investigate, of course, but if these allegations are true, I understand. I just want everyone to have all the facts. That afternoon, I drove by Rhett's car lot. The red sports car I'd scratched was gone, probably being repainted. But there were other cars, other opportunities. I parked across the street and called the number I'd found in Jovie's envelope, the offshore bank where Rhett had been hiding his money. I'd like to report some suspicious financial activity, I told the compliance officer. I have reason to believe someone is using your bank to hide assets from the IRS. The third call was to the local newspaper's business reporter, I've got a story about a local car dealer who's been running some questionable financial schemes. Are you interested? By evening, I'd planted seeds that would take weeks to grow, but would eventually choke the life out of everything Rhett had built. Zara came home that night, and I could tell from her face that Peterson had already talked to her. "You went to my boss," she said. "I gave him information he needed to protect his business. You're trying to destroy my career. I'm trying to protect myself. You started this war, Zara. Don't blame me for fighting back." She sat down heavily in her chair, suddenly looking older than her 42 years. "What do you want from me, Orion?" "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You thought you could betray me, steal from me, and laugh about it with your friends. You thought wrong. And what happens now? Now we see how much you really want out of this marriage. Because I promise you, it's going to cost more than you expected." She left again, and I went back to my garage to work on my truck. But for the first time in weeks, I wasn't hiding from my problems. I was solving them, one by one. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning when Rhett's financing fell through. I was having coffee with Jovie at a diner across town, going over the next phase of our plan, when she got a text that made her smile. "Rhett's having cash flow problems," she said. "Apparently, his bank has some concerns about his business practices. Imagine that. He's panicking. Called Zara 3 times this morning, asking if she can access more of your joint accounts. Which she can't because I froze them." "Which she can't," Jovie agreed. "And now she's starting to realize that her knight in shining armor might not be able to rescue her after all." I leaned back in my booth, feeling something that might have been satisfaction. "How long before his whole operation collapses?" "Weeks, maybe less. The IRS is sniffing around, his creditors are getting nervous, and that newspaper reporter you talked to is asking questions." "And Zara?" "Zara's about to learn that running away with a man who's broke is a lot less appealing than running away with a man who's rich." That afternoon, I got a call from Peterson. "Orion, I wanted to let you know that we've completed our investigation into Zara's activities. I'm afraid we're going to have to let her go." "I'm sorry to hear that." "She violated company policy in several serious ways, using company resources for personal business, sharing confidential information with unauthorized individuals, falsifying expense reports. We really had no choice." "I understand. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this situation with remarkable restraint. A lot of men would have done something more dramatic." If only he knew what I had planned for the finale. That evening, Zara came home in tears, real tears, not the calculated kind she'd been using to manipulate me for months. "They fired me," she said. "I heard. You did this. You destroyed my career. You destroyed your career. I just made sure the right people knew about it." She collapsed onto our couch, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered her laughing about taking out the trash. "What am I supposed to do now?" she asked. "I don't know. Maybe ask Rhett. I'm sure he'll take care of you." She looked up at me with something like desperation. "Orion, can we please just talk about this? Can we try to work something out?" "What kind of something?" "I don't know. Counseling, maybe. A trial separation. Something that doesn't involve destroying each other." I sat down across from her, studying her face. She looked sincere, but I'd learned not to trust appearances where Zara was concerned. "You want to save our marriage?" "I want to save something. This isn't who we used to be." "No, it's not. We used to be partners. We used to trust each other. We used to be in love. We could be again." "Could we? Even after everything you've done with Rhett?" She flinched at his name. "That was a mistake. A terrible mistake. I was confused, lonely, stupid. But it's over." "Is it?" "Yes. I ended it yesterday." I almost believed her. She was that good at lying, even to herself. "What changed your mind?" "You did. The way you've been fighting for us. for our marriage. It made me realize what I was throwing away. I haven't been fighting for our marriage, Zara. I've been fighting for my dignity. Then fight for our marriage too. Please. I looked at her sitting there, beautiful and broken and desperate, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Not love, not anymore, but not hatred either, just a kind of sad recognition of what we'd both lost. It's too late, I said finally. It doesn't have to be. Yes, it does, because even if I could forgive what you did, I can't forgive what you are. She stared at me, not understanding. You're the kind of person who can betray someone who loves you and then ask them to pretend it never happened. You're the kind of person who can steal from your husband and then blame him for catching you. You're the kind of person who can sit at our kitchen table and tell me I deserve what you did to me. I never said that. You didn't have to. It's who you are, Zara, and I finally see it. She started crying again, but this time I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt free. I'm staying at Jovie's tonight, she said. You're staying at Jovie's permanently. I want you out of this house by the end of the week. Orion, we're done talking. Get your lawyer, I'll get mine, and we'll let them figure out the details. After she left, I called Jovie. How did it go? She asked. She tried to reconcile. And I told her it was too late. Good, because I've got news about Rhett. He's planning something desperate. What kind of desperate? The kind where he tries to salvage his situation by getting rid of the evidence. And the witnesses. What does that mean? It means he's dangerous now. Cornered animals do stupid things. Are you worried? I'm careful. You should be too. I hung up and walked through my empty house, thinking about what Jovie had said. Rhett was desperate, which made him unpredictable. But it also made him vulnerable. I went out to my garage and opened the toolbox where I kept my important papers. Buried underneath the warranty information and repair manuals was a small digital recorder, the kind private investigators used for surveillance. Tomorrow, I was going to have a conversation with Rhett Vossin, and I was going to make sure I had a record of everything he said, because desperate men tell the truth when they think nobody's listening. And I was very good at listening. The lakeside mansion was Rhett's last asset, the one thing he hadn't mortgaged or hidden or lost to his creditors. It sat on 20 acres of prime real estate, all glass and steel and architectural arrogance, the kind of place that screamed money to anyone who saw it. It was also the perfect place for a final confrontation. I'd been planning this moment for weeks, ever since Jovie had suggested we needed to end this where it started, with all the players in one place, all the secrets on the table, and all the lies finally exposed. Are you sure about this? Colby asked as we sat in his car at the end of the long driveway. Once you start this, there's no going back. I passed the point of no going back when I found that first text message. And you trust Jovie? I trust Jovie to look out for herself, which means I trust her to help me destroy the people who betrayed her. Just remember, revenge has a way of consuming the people who pursue it. This isn't revenge, Colby. This is justice. He handed me a small device that looked like a pen. Audio and video recorder. Everything will be transmitted to my car, so even if something happens to you, we'll have evidence. Nothing's going to happen to me. Famous last words. I got out of the car and walked up the driveway toward the house. It was a beautiful October evening, the kind that made you think about fresh starts and new beginnings. By the time I walked back down this driveway one way or another, I'd have both. The front door was unlocked, just like Jovie had promised. I walked into a living room that was bigger than my entire house, all leather furniture and abstract art, and windows that looked out over the lake. Rhett was standing by the bar, pouring himself a drink. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past month. His tan had faded, his hair was messed up, and his usually perfect clothes were wrinkled. Orion Vanton, he said without turning around. I wondered when you'd show up. Rhett. Drink? I'm fine. He turned to face me, and I saw something desperate in his eyes. You've been busy. I've been thorough. The IRS, the newspaper, my bank, very thorough, very professional. I have to admit, I underestimated you. Most people do. The question is, what do you want now? You've destroyed my business, ruined my reputation, cost me everything I've worked for. What's left? The truth. He laughed, a sound with no humor in it. The truth? The truth is that your wife came to me, not the other way around. The truth is that she was desperate to get away from you and willing to do anything to make it happen. The truth is that she never loved you. She just needed someone to pay the bills while she figured out what she really wanted. Each word was designed to hurt, and they did. But I'd learned to use pain as fuel instead of letting it consume me. Is that what you told yourself when you were planning to steal my money? I wasn't stealing anything. I was helping her get what was rightfully hers. By cleaning out our joint accounts, by giving her the resources to start over with someone who appreciated her, someone like you, someone like me. I looked around the room, taking in the expensive furniture and artwork. Nice place. Too bad you're going to lose it. Actually, I'm not. He smiled, and I saw something ugly in his expression. You see, Orion, you made one mistake in your little revenge campaign. You assumed I'd just roll over and let you destroy me. And you won't? I won't, because I've got something you want, and you've got something I need. What do I have that you need? Your silence, your cooperation, your willingness to walk away and pretend none of this ever happened. And what do you have that I want? Your wife. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Zara's here? She's here, and she's going to stay here until you and I work out a deal. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What kind of deal? The kind where you back off, drop your complaints to the IRS and the newspapers, and let me rebuild my business. In exchange, I'll give you a clean divorce and let you keep your house. And if I don't? If you don't, things get very complicated for everyone involved. That's when I heard footsteps on the stairs, and Zara appeared in the doorway. She looked terrible, scared, exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. Orion, she said, and I heard something like relief in her voice. Are you okay? She's fine, Rhett said before she could answer. Just a little overwhelmed by recent events. I looked at Zara, trying to read her expression. She was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't figure out what. Let her go, Rhett. This is between you and me. Actually, it's between all of us. You see, Zara's been having second thoughts about our relationship. Something about realizing that a man who's lost everything isn't much of a catch. So now she wants to go back to her boring husband and her boring life. Is that true? I asked Zara. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. But I've invested too much in this relationship to just walk away, Rhett continued. So we're going to work out an arrangement that benefits everyone. What kind of arrangement? You're going to transfer half of your assets to me as compensation for the damage you've done to my business. In exchange, I'll give you a divorce and let you both walk away. I almost laughed. You want me to pay you for the privilege of getting my wife back? I want you to pay me for the privilege of staying out of prison. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the evidence I have of your harassment, your vandalism, your interference with my business relationships. I'm talking about the restraining order I can get that will keep you away from your own house. I'm talking about the criminal charges that will destroy what's left of your reputation. He was bluffing. He had to be bluffing, but looking at his face, I wasn't sure. You have 1 hour to decide, he said. After that, things get very unpleasant for everyone. That's when Jovie walked into the room. Sorry I'm late, she said. Traffic was terrible. I stared at her, confused. Jovie? What are you doing here? The same thing you are, finishing this. She walked over to Rhett and kissed him on the cheek. Hello, darling. How's our guest? The pieces fell into place with a sound like breaking glass. You're working together, I said. We never stopped working together, Jovie said. Did you really think I'd help you destroy the man I love just because he had a fling with your pathetic wife? I looked at Zara, who was staring at Jovie with something like horror. You set this whole thing up, I said. We set it up, Rhett said. Jovie's been feeding you information, guiding your revenge campaign, making sure you did exactly what we needed you to do. Which was what? Destroy Zara's career and reputation so thoroughly that she'd have nowhere else to turn, make her completely dependent on us for survival, and get you so invested in your revenge that you'd be willing to pay anything to see it through. I felt sick. Everything I'd done, every move I'd made, had been part of their plan. The only problem, Jovie said, is that Zara turned out to be less grateful than we expected. Instead of appreciating everything we've done for her, she's been whining about wanting to go back to you. So now, we're going to give her that chance, Rhett said. For a price. I looked around the room, at Rhett with his desperate smile, at Jovie with her cold calculation, at Zara with her tears and terror. And I realized that I'd been playing their game by their rules from the beginning. It was time to change the rules. Okay, I said. You win. They looked surprised. They'd been expecting me to fight, to rage, to make threats I couldn't back up. Just like that? Rhett asked. Just like that. You're right. I'm tired of fighting. I just want this to be over. And you'll transfer the assets? I'll transfer whatever you want. I just need to make some calls, move some money around. It'll take a few hours. You have until midnight, Jovie said. After that, the offer expires. Fair enough. Can I use your phone? Mine's not getting good reception up here. Rhett pointed to a landline on the bar. I walked over and dialed Colby's number. It's me, I said when he answered. Yeah, I'm ready to make the transfer. Bring the paperwork. I hung up and turned back to them. My lawyer's on his way. He'll have everything we need to make this official. Good, Rhett said. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. I'm being practical. You outplayed me. I can accept that. But I wasn't being reasonable or practical. I was being smart. Because the call I'd just made wasn't to Colby. It was to Mickey, my old boxing coach. And bring the paperwork was code for bring the boys and come ready for trouble. I looked at my watch. Mickey and his crew would be here in 20 minutes. Until then, I just had to keep Rhett and Jovie talking. I have to ask, I said. How long have you two been planning this? Months, Jovie said. Ever since Rhett told me about his financial problems. We needed a way to get a large sum of money quickly, and your wife provided the perfect opportunity. So you used her to get to me. We used her to get to your money. The fact that she was stupid enough to fall for Rhett's act just made it easier. I glanced at Zara, who was listening to this with growing horror. And what happens to her after tonight? That depends on how cooperative she is, Rhett said. If she's smart, she'll learn to appreciate what we've done for her. And if she's not smart? Then she'll learn the hard way. I heard the threat in his voice and saw Zara flinch. You know, I said, I have to admire the complexity of your plan. Using Jovie to manipulate me, feeding me just enough information to make me think I was winning, setting me up to destroy my own wife so you could swoop in and save her. Thank you, Jovie said. It wasn't easy, but it was effective. There's just one thing I don't understand. What's that? Why you thought I'd be stupid enough to fall for it. The room went quiet. What do you mean? Rhett asked. I smiled and pulled out the pen recorder Colby had given me. I mean that everything you've said in the last 20 minutes has been recorded and transmitted to the police. Jovie's face went white. You're lying. I'm not lying. And I'm not alone. That's when Mickey and 3 of his biggest fighters walked through the front door. Sorry we're late, kid, Mickey said. Had to stop for gas. Rhett started to move toward a drawer in the bar, but one of Mickey's boys, a heavyweight named Tony, who could bench press a small car, stepped in front of him. "I wouldn't," Tony said quietly. "This is kidnapping," Jovie said. "False imprisonment. You can't—" "Actually, we can," I said, "because you just confessed to extortion, fraud, and conspiracy, and because Zara is here against her will, which makes it kidnapping on your part." I walked over to Zara and helped her to her feet. "Are you okay?" She nodded, still crying. "I'm sorry, Orion. I'm so sorry." "I know. They said they'd hurt you if I didn't cooperate. They said, 'It's okay. It's over now.'" I heard sirens in the distance, getting closer. "You called the police?" Rhett asked. "I called everyone. The police, the FBI, the IRS. Turns out that when you confess to multiple federal crimes on tape, people take notice." The sirens were getting louder. "You have about 2 minutes before this place is surrounded," I said. "I suggest you use that time to think about how you want to explain this to the authorities." Jovie looked at Rhett, then at me, then at the door. I could see her calculating, trying to find an angle, a way out. There wasn't one. "You think you've won," she said finally. "I think I've survived. Sometimes that's enough." The police cars were pulling into the driveway now, their lights flashing red and blue against the windows. "This isn't over," Rhett said. "Yes, it is." I put my arm around Zara and walked toward the door. Mickey and his boys followed, leaving Rhett and Jovie to wait for the police. Outside, Colby was waiting by his car. "How did it go?" he asked. "Better than expected. They confessed to everything." "And your wife?" I looked at Zara, who was still shaking from everything that had happened. "My wife and I have a lot to talk about." As we drove away from the mansion, I saw the police cars surrounding the building in my rearview mirror. Rhett and Jovie would be in custody within minutes, and their carefully constructed plan would collapse under the weight of their own arrogance. "What happens now?" Zara asked quietly. "Now we figure out if there's anything left of our marriage worth saving. And if there isn't? Then we end it with dignity instead of destruction." She was quiet for a long moment. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Maybe not. But you don't deserve what they were going to do to you either." "Why did you save me, after everything I did?" I thought about it as we drove through the night toward home. Why had I saved her? Not because I loved her. That was gone, probably forever. Not because I thought our marriage could be repaired. Too much had been broken for that. "Because it was the right thing to do," I said finally. "And because I'm not the kind of man who walks away when someone needs help, even if that someone has hurt me. Even after everything? Even after everything." We drove the rest of the way in silence, two people who had shared 22 years of marriage and were now trying to figure out how to share whatever came next. Behind us, the lights of the mansion faded into the distance, along with the lies, the schemes, and the people who had tried to destroy us both. It was over. Finally, it was over.